You said you got ran over by a truck, and that seems to be part of the conversation that you're leading in regards to the movie After Death, where your team reached out to me. So, where's the best place for you to start to tell people about this near death experience that you had?
It can happen at any time. I think we know that, but we're always one breath away from what happens next. And I believe that. I have a background in broadcasting, radio, and television, and but I felt a call to ministry, and so in 1985, I left the broadcasting business, went into ministry. About 4 years later, I attended a conference for ministers, and it ended on a Wednesday morning in South Texas. I was on my way to my church in South Texas, and I was only about 10 minutes out of the gate of this conference center when I was crossing a narrow rural bridge, old bridge. Never been on it before. I went home a different way that day, or at least I tried to go home. I didn't make it. And a tractor trailer truck, an 18-wheeler, came down a steep embankment, swerved over into my lane, and hit me head on. Never saw it coming, never had a chance. It's a it's a superstructure bridge, so it has narrow railings, and there was nowhere for me to go. And he just literally ran over the top of my car, crushed it with me in it, and hit a couple of more cars. So it was a horrific wreck on this bridge in the middle of nowhere. And amazingly, no one else was hurt. The truck driver wasn't hurt. The drivers of the other two cars were not hurt. So they were treated and released. The paramedics that were sent to the bridge, and there were four of them because there were four victims, all worked on me. And I was in just, I had been dismembered. It was a horrific sight to see. And they tried to resuscitate me. They were unsuccessful. I was pronounced dead on the scene. Body was covered up in the car, waiting for a medical examiner to come and do the paperwork so I could be transported. And the moment the truck struck me, I was absent from this body, and I was present at the gates of heaven. Revelation 21 says there's 12 of these gates, and I was at one of them, surrounded by people I had known and loved in life who had preceded me in death. And they all looked really good. I mean, I think if you want to look really good, heaven is the place to be. And back on the bridge, there were people behind me. Obviously, they're not going anywhere now. The bridge is blocked. Some of them leave their cars and walk up to the bridge, find out what's going on. Why are we not moving? One of those guys was at the conference with me. I did not know him, but he just felt God speak to him and say, "Pray for the man in the red car." That would have been me. So he had to almost argue with the policeman to let him get in the wreckage of the car and pray over the body. He finally persuaded him to do so. He got under the tarp with the body and began to pray. This went on for an hour and a half. By this time, they had identified me. They had called the church where I was headed, told them I'd been in a wreck, but not that I was a fatality, because they don't do that on the phone if they can help it. And in fact, I have been out many times to notify people with law enforcement that someone they love has died, has been killed. So they were going to do that for me. So this guy's name was Dick Wrecker. He's under the car praying over my dead body and singing a great old hymn, "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." He's holding on to my right shoulder because my right arm is the only thing I did not break in the wreck. And he's singing that song, and without warning, an hour and a half after the wreck, it happened 11:45. It's now 1:15 in the afternoon. He's praying over my dead body, and I start singing that song with him. And
Wow.
I'm back. And of course, he's shocked. He goes and tells the EMTs that the man in the red car is dead, is alive. He's singing, and they don't believe him. So he has to convince them to come over and check on me. They do. They find out that I'm slightly alive, and they try to extricate me from that car. Removing a living person is very different from removing a dead person from a car, a wrecked car. So they did. Took hours. And from an accident that happened at 11:45 in the morning, I arrived at Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston, Level 1 Trauma Center at 6:15 that night, 6.5 hours after the wreck. I would be in a hospital bed for 13 months, and I would have 34 operations to put me back together again. So I never planned to talk about what happened to me. I really wanted to put it behind me and never have to deal with it again. The reality of it is, I believe God put it in front of me, and so I had to reconcile that. I had to accept the fact that people wanted to know if there is life after death. They want to know if heaven is a real place. They want to know if you can have some kind of existence after you've gone through a horrific trauma and you're never going to be the same again. And they want to know, I believe, that if prayer works, because the only reason I think I'm still here is because a lot of people prayed. And God said yes. I had nothing to do with my survival. If I had had a choice, I wouldn't have come back here, certainly to what I came back to, uh, years of rehabilitation. And I'm not the way I was before. I can't do a great deal of the things I did before. I was a 38-year-old healthy guy with 3 kids and a wife and doing what I felt like I was supposed to do. And suddenly one day on an old bridge, everything changed.
Oh man, I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to go from there. There's so much to unpack. So thank you first of all for sharing that. I feel like I was like looking at you, but I feel like I was watching a movie at the
Sure.
same time. No pun intended regarding the movie that just came out.
No, I
After,
know what you're saying. I
you know
didn't
what I
feel
mean?
the same way myself.